Hi, my name is Maura Brewer. I'm an artist based in Los Angeles, and my piece in the show is called Private Client Services. Private Client Services is a video that I made as a kind of collaboration with a gallery in LA called the Canary Test. And what we agreed to do is that they would sort of assist me in laundering money through the acquisition of an artwork as a performance that would take place over the duration of an exhibition that I had in the space. I talked to a bunch of people in finance, I talked to bankers and other financiers, I talked to dealers, I talked to artists and art handlers, people who work in galleries, about the kinds of shady things they had experienced in the art world. And one of the things that I quickly learned is that art, is this kind of perfect vehicle for money laundering. In fact, there was a Senate investigation earlier in the year into the relationship between the art world and money laundering because it's considered to be a bigger and bigger problem. The reason that art is such a good vehicle for money laundering is because it's basically a largely unregulated market, and the value of art is highly subjective. So, if I get an appraiser to say my work is worth X amount of dollars and the market will bear that, then that's pretty much, I can create this sort of like really a sort of fiction of value around my art. So if I was going to figure out how to launder money through buying an artwork, I thought I should talk to people who knew something about this. Over the course of the video, you hear me having this discussion with this lovely guy named Geoff, who's a banker, and he gave me sort of a lot of advice, very practical advice about how money laundering might work. So at the end of the video, I'm showing you this history of money. And I'm also showing you this sort of history of conceptual art, starting with Duchamp and moving through the conceptual artists of the 1970s. And I bring those two sort of historical strands together in the late 1970s, with the birth of conceptualism and the end of the gold standard. And my idea is that in this moment in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, money and art both become these kind of free-floating signs. So really anything can be money and anything can be art by the time we get to the second half of the 20th century. And so for that reason, art and money are very comfortable bedfellows, right? I'm interested in that because as someone who considers themselves to be like within the lineage of conceptual art, I think a lot of times, like I have thought of my own work as being radical because it's maybe like not less materialized. It's not a painting, it's not a sculpture, right? Like it's not an object that can be bought and sold in the ways that we generally, think of commodities. When in fact, actually, if we look at the kind of financialization of the world, because of that malleability, because of the immateriality of conceptual art, it becomes actually this sort of perfect vehicle for capitalism.